welcome. So today in this video I'm going to show you how to apply the mohair yarn to the little dolly dot sized dolly that we now do. So we'll be using our looped mohair, just one ball of this, along with our crochet yarn. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pop some pins in just to mark out where we want her hairline. Okay, so I start with my top centre one first, and then I just bring the pins round to the side. And this one here, as you get to this side here, this is generally parallel with the edge of the ear. Bring them around the side. Again, parallel to the top of that ear there. And then work around the back. So just a little bit up from the nape of the neck. And you're bringing it up and over. Leave a little bit of a gap in between the back of the ear there, because you don't want it too close to that. And around this side. So her hairline is all pinned nicely in place. So the mohair that we're using is just the single ball of mohair. You only need the one ball per little dolly dot, and this is the same size that we would use for our Ollie dolly. Okay, so first things first, I take my looped mohair ball and I roll off 4 meters. Okay, so take off 4 meters from the main ball. And then I'm going to crochet this. Now if you start off with a nice long tail, because that can be used for part of the hair length anyway, so I'm going to put my slip knot probably about 8 inches or so up from the tail end, if I can do a slip knot. Okay, so there's my slip knot. I take my crochet hook and I'm just going to crochet the complete length of this 4 meter looped mohair. And then this is the sort of chain effect you're going to get. So it's quite a chunky chain, and it's still obviously showing all the loops. So keep going, keep working until you've completely done the whole of those 4 meter, the whole of that 4 meter length. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, and I'm leaving a little bit of a length on there. And what I'm going to do is take my crochet yarn, and I'm now going to attach that to the end of the mohair. So just tie that into a little knot, pull that through, tie that off. So now I've still got my loop with my looped mohair, and I'm now going to start crocheting into the crochet yarn. Okay. So crocheting through the crochet yarn. So there I've got my mohair, my looped mohair crocheted into a chain, which is now leading into the crochet yarn. So it's completely attached. There's the tails there. So now we're going to continue to crochet this yarn. Now there is, I think there's 18 meters on that little ball there. I think you're probably only going to need about 12 meters to go around the circumference of little Dolly Dot's head. You can crochet the whole lot because it's easy to pull back to the required length. But yeah, roughly 12 meters is what you're going to need to crochet. Okay, so I've just done a quick measure out. I've got about 5 meters left from my crochet yarn. I'm not going to chain that up, so we'll just leave those 5 meters on there. I might need to use some more, and I might have done too much. So don't forget, everybody crochets differently, so everyone's chain is going to be different. You might have a really tight chain, or you might have a really loose chain. So to gauge how much you're actually going to use, I can't give you a definitive answer on that. It is what it is. Okay, so we've got our crochet yarn, and it's attached to our looped mohair. So for little Dolly Dot, you are going to need to roll off the 4 meters of the looped mohair to make the chain. For Polly and Ollie, you're going to need to roll off 6 meters to make the chain for Polly or Ollie. And then for the crochet yarn, for little Dot, you're going to need roughly 12 meters. And for Polly and Ollie, you're going to need roughly 18 meters. Okay, so that's sort of like the some of the questions answered that people sort of saying, oh, how much do I need? You know, what do I roll off? Okay, so 4 meters for Dot, 6 meters for Polly and Ollie in the mohair, 12 meters for the crochet yarn for Dot, and 18 meters for Polly and Ollie in the crochet yarn. Okay, so onwards. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the beginning of the looped mohair. Turn little Dot over, and we are going to position this at the back. Now you can actually use an erasable marker pen and draw that hairline in if you so wish, or you can just leave your pins in and just remove your pins as you work. So I've taken some thread to match. I'm just going to fasten on at the back here. Just cut my little tails off, and I can take that start pin out because I know where my starting point is going to be. Okay, so secured on, I'm just now going to work my way around the edge of those pins. Taking the pins out as I go, obviously. Don't want to be leaving them in. And I'm just doing getting all hooked up here today, aren't I? I'm just doing a back stitch. You could do a back stitch, you can do a slip stitch. Doesn't really matter what sort of stitch you're doing to sew that chain on. Whatever you find more comfortable and whatever you prefer. When you get to the ears, make sure that you've got that nice angled shape. So we just come in parallel to the top of the ear here. Just going to do a couple of extra stitches in there just to hold in place. And then I'm going to turn my yarn, my crochet yarn, into that hairline shape. Okay, so you've got the nice curve there, and then it goes up straight, parallel with the ear. And continue with little back stitches all the way along. Okay, I'm coming to the start point now. So just butt it up to that starting point. And then we're now going to continue to butt the chain close to each other all the way around, so there's no gap, so get it as close as you can, and just start working your second round. Okay, 2 rounds done, so I'm now working into round 3. So I'm just finishing off round 4 now, and this is where the looped mohair is going to come to an end, and it's going to continue on with the crochet yarn. So with those 4 meters that you did with your looped mohair, you should be just past the top of the front section of the head. So you can see here now that my mohair chain is running out, and I'm now starting in with the crochet yarn. So the mohair is going to finish just above her ear there. Okay, so I'm going to leave the 2 tail ends, just leave those hanging for the moment. Continue with my back stitches. So that's the end of my mohair. I'm now going into the crochet yarn. And I continue working with the crochet yarn. Oh, let's get you untangled. And again, sewing it on with a back stitch, button it on nice and closely to the chain before. You do use a lot of thread, sewing thread, to go round and round and round and round. So you'll find that you're going to have to keep adding new sewing thread. So I just take it into the head, fasten off somewhere in the head, sink the tail, attach some more thread, 3 little stitches, and then we'll cut that little tail off and continue. Okay, I'm just coming round to where the knot is for the crochet yarn and the looped mohair. And what we need to do is we need to sink the tail on the crochet yarn. So just take your darning needle and just separate that crochet yarn. Just run it through so it's not so thick. You can separate it into as many sections as you like. Okay, so I've got about 4 strands one side, 4 strands the other. It just makes it much easier for sinking in. So attach your darning needle, take your end and just sink it into the head. Bring that out, cut that tail off and repeat with that other bit. Sink that one as well, close to the knot. Cut that tail off. So that's your crochet tail sunk. That one there, that's the tail of the start of the mohair. You can leave that one on because that one will just act as one of the lengths of the hair. Okay, so onwards, continuing to sew this chain on. It's quite a long job, it takes some time. It's the sort of thing you could do on a Saturday night when you're sat there watching the telly. Yeah, so it's not a quick job. It takes some doing. When you're sewing the chain on, with each stitch, make sure you pull the chain nice and taut. Don't leave it baggy. So from each stitch you pull the chain, hold it down and do your stitch. Pull the chain, hold it down and do your back stitch. And if you continue to do that, making sure that you pull it as you go all the way around, you'll get a nice tight sewn on chain. And there won't be any sort of baggy gaps. So yeah, just take the time to pull each section prior to stitching it. Okay, so we're coming to the top section now. I don't tend to pull my chain at this point because if you pull it, it might go a bit, you get a bit of a gap. So just let the chain lay where it wants to. And my stitches are really small and short at this point. Okay, so I'm now going to fasten off my thread. Cut that, and then as you can see I've got some chain left, which is already crocheted. So what I do now is I just pull that back, because it's easy to pull back. Just keep going, and then just as you get to that top bit, I'll keep that chain there. Just going to grab my crochet hook, bring that loop out a bit, cut off my yarn. So yeah, I've got that much over, and then just pull that thread through the loop to close that. Give it a nice tight pull, and then same as before, I want to sink that tail. So take my darning needle and just separate that yarn. I've got about 4 threads that side and the same that side. Take my darning needle, and then I'm just going to sink that tail into the head, bring it out wherever, doesn't matter where you bring it out, pull it through nice and tight, snip that bit off, and then repeat for that other tail there. Thread that in there and bring it out and pull it nice and tight. Okay, so there she has her crochet chain all sewn on, nice and tight. The chains are all nice and tight all the way around. You get a little bit of a gap, but they are pretty close together, and you just got those 2 ends there that were the start off and finish point. So I'm just going to snip some out because I don't need quite that long. Okay, so it does absolutely play havoc with your nail varnish if you're wearing nail varnish. All those stitches, even though I've got shellac on, it still takes it off right on the tip there of my nail. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start applying the long mohair lengths. Okay, so now we're on to applying the mohair lengths. So this is the remainder of the one ball, and I've cut my mohair lengths to 35 centimetres, and I've got roughly, you get roughly between 120 to 130 lengths altogether. Right, so let's apply to our little dolly. So you take your crochet hook and you go in through the mohair. Okay, you go through 2 chains, you go through 1 chain, doesn't really matter you know, how you pick up through that loop there. You take your mohair, you fold it in half, approximately half, and then you hook on to that centre end, pull up through, take the loop that you've pulled through and feed through the 2 ends. Now your spacing is roughly, I would say roughly 1 centimetre apart along this bottom edge. And you'll get into a system where you won't need to actually keep putting your crochet hook down. You just hook through, hold on to your crochet hook and pull through. So whether you decide to go through the top of the chain or underneath the chain, again, it doesn't make any difference. That's your preference. So that back section is all done. So now we're just going to work around the front. Hello, quiet. It's enough. Okay, so my spacing for that first round all the way through was approximately, it was just under 1 centimetre approximately in between each strand of hair all the way through. Okay, so now I will continue to do a second round. This is still going through the mohair chain, and this I start at the ear, side of the ear. I don't go in, well it varies, sometimes I go in to the next chain up, but then I alternate it, so I do the next chain up, then I go above that, down, above, down. So it's just playing around with it, putting in, you know, where you feel that there's a gap, where you feel that the strand needs to be, then just pop it in. And the space in here is approximately 1.5 to 2 centimetres as we're going round here. Okay, so round 2's done, and as you can see it's looking pretty good already, and if you were to pull it back into a ponytail, already you can see just by 2 rounds is more than enough to hide the crochet chain underneath, but obviously we are going to put some more on. So the area that you need to be working on next is this top section here. So before you do the back and the rest of the back here, let's concentrate on this area here. Okay, so I've set her down. I've got that part of her head uppermost, and to make it easier for me for recording, I'm going to go in from the bottom up. I usually go in from this way down, but for video recording I'm going to go in from bottom up. Okay, so when you're doing into the crochet chain, I'll get in a position where I can see what I'm doing and I can record. The gaps in between each length, you can leave about a 2 centimetre gap. Okay, so don't butt them on close together. Now when you go through the loop of the crochet chain, you can either go through just one loop of the yarn, or you can pick up the whole yarn and go through both of the chains. I'm going to move that side because it's easier for picking up. So again, no right or wrong way. It's whatever you feel more comfortable with. So approximately 2 centimetre gap. So I'm just going to work on that front section there, and then I'll be back to you when I've done that. Okay, so I've done that top section there. So that's a big chunky bit there on the top. And as you can see, when I sweep it all back and put it into her ponytail, that's completely hidden the crochet yarn. Okay, so we've got 2 centimetre gaps all the way along the top there. I haven't gone into every row on the chain. I've missed a row, then gone into the chain above. So just bear that in mind, because what's happening with a few people is they're running out of yarn because they're putting the lengths too close together. So now I've got this section here and I've got this much yarn left. Okay, so I need to sort of gauge how much I'm going to put in, but I do know that if I didn't put any more in at all, it would be absolutely fine. Okay, so just be aware of making sure that you complete this area here at the top first, because this is where our hair is scrunched back, and this is where you don't want the crochet chain to be seen. Okay, and then with what you've got left, you can then continue to work in this area here. So as I say, 2 centimetre gaps and miss a chain. So do a chain, miss a chain, do a chain, miss a chain. I will continue to add my mohair. Okay, so I'm nearing the end now. I've only got a really small little bit left to do. Okay, so I've completely covered her head. Roughly 2 centimetre gap in between each strand, every other row of the crochet chain, and I've got that much left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the front of her, because I'll be bringing some of those top bits down, the wispy bits down for her fringe. I can now go in and maybe add some more. So I'm just going to pull that front row forward, because these are the bits that I will be pulling down, and I'm just going to add some more in to here, any of the little gaps that I can see. So yeah, it's nice when you end up with mohair over, because you then know that you can go in and fill in any bits that look a bit gappy. So I'm just going to go in between the lengths that I've already attached and just apply some more right on that front row there. So I'm going to continue to work to cover in, to fill in any little gaps, and I'll see you back here soon. Okay, so all the mohair has been used on her, and as you can see, she's got a nice head of hair. It's just with that one ball of looped mohair. So that just leaves me now to tie it up. So I'm just going to take down a few strands in the front. So they're just randomly picked out. That would be nice. And then just scrunch the rest up. And then I'm going to put that little lot into a pony band. Pull it out. Run your fingers through it. Make sure it's up high enough. Okay, that's good. And then you can either cut it before you put it up in the pony band, or put it up in the pony band and then cut it. Okay, so just take it as a chunk there. Take my scissors. And just snip through that edge. Okay, so now to snip these front bits. I tend to do them all random. Okay, so I'm going to give her a little clean up with some sellotape to take off some of that fluff that she's got all over her face, because I didn't put a mask on and I didn't put her in a body bag either. So I'm going to go and grab the sellotape. Okay, so she's had a clean up and I've applied her blusher to her little cheeks and forehead. So that just leaves me to pop in a little bow. So I'm going to use this green ribbon. Just snip those ends. I'll use my hairdressing scissors on this. On there. And on there. I was going to put two in, but I think I'll just leave it to the one. So yeah, such a little cutie. So I'm going to go and get her dressed, and then you can see the final result again. So here she is all finished, and isn't she just the cutest little thing? So she's got a fair skin tone with our pale green eyes and rusty mohair. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy making these little Polly dollies. Let's bring her sister in. So this is Nancy. So she's been around a while. Nancy's got the peach skin, she's got the green eyes, and she's also got the rusty mohair. And as you can see, the peach skin is just slightly warmer in complexion to the pale skin, to the fair skin. So yeah, choice is yours. So many different skin tones and so many different mohairs for you to choose from. So thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing the mohair being attached to little dolly dots, just using the one ball. So until next time, I'll see you all again soon. Bye!